All right. Welcome to Game Changers Live here from Miami, Florida. And I have my special guest here live from Chicago, Mr. JD Gershbein. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, Sergio. I'm going to do my best to match your energy today. Based on that theme music, I'm already pretty jazzed up and well caffeinated. All set.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let me introduce JD here to the listeners. So since 2006, JD has been at the forefront of advancing the ideals of the digital world, inspiring opportunity-oriented individuals and companies to harness the power of the online media to elevate their profiles, engage their communities, and win new business. So JD was one of the world's first independent LinkedIn consultants, and is widely regarded as a thought leader in the areas of personal branding, social networking, and social entrepreneurship. As a business psychologist, speaker, facilitator, and media producer, JD has educated and entertained audiences all over the globe on how to create a competitive advantage in today's digital age. And he has been featured on Fox TV News, on WGN TV News, CBS News, WGN Radio, and contributed written work to the Huffington Post, NBC, and Forbes. And he's also a student of improvisational and sketch comedy at the Second City in Chicago. So welcome, sir, to Game Changers.
Well, it's good to be involved in your other game changer company. Nice to be here.
Exactly. So let's start off and talk about what's on everyone's mind right now, which is how, in this time right now with COVID, and the world is upside down in terms of everyone's businesses, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're having that issue. How do we start leveraging the online world to help our brands, to help our company to gain new business?
What has happened is the big question. I mean, who would have expected this? And who would have thought that we would have to be the generation that has to deal with a global pandemic? But if you look at the history book, Sergio, we were due, and we got it. And we're all pressed into the same sense of urgency. We all have to adapt. I call it the virtualization of business. Business has moved online, and until further notice, anybody that was doing business in the face-to-face, feet on the floor, eye contact, handshake world is relegated to the online realm. So the goal is to make it as seamless a transition as possible, as comfortable a change as possible, and manage as we go along. We are scrapping the playbooks at this point. Every day brings something new and different, and we have to just go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. So, in terms of branding, I think personal branding is become much more important, right? For an entrepreneur, let's say, who's starting off and doesn't have that brand, is that one of the biggest differentiators, or one of the most important things to develop as an entrepreneur, is having a really strong, consistent brand?
I would say so. I think branding is tied to everything we do online. It's tied to the way we develop relationships. It's tied to how we assert ourselves in terms of our professional value. And it's really our pivot point within the pivot. We've done things so far. We're doing things right now. We have a vision of ourselves in the future as to how that's going to go. And for the most part, much of what we call our personal brand lies outside our control. So we're here to do the best we can with what we have, and obviously guide and shape our perceptions and let others follow.
Yeah. So, you've been on LinkedIn since probably the very beginning, right? You're one of the pioneers in that area in terms of being a specialist and really leveraging the brand and leveraging the platform.
Is that what I said? Is that what was written there? Then it must be true.
Since 2006, right? So, and you train individuals and teams on how to leverage LinkedIn. So right now, for those people out there that need to really get their LinkedIn going, if they haven't done it yet, like, what would you recommend?
I'm asked this all the time, and really the first step is to take that step back and reassess and reconfigure your professional value. If you're going to bring this content to a LinkedIn profile, which is really your first point of reference now in the business universe, it has to be tight. It has to be well thought out, and you have to think some things through. What is it that you do? Who are truly the people who you wish to serve? Who are the people you serve now? What would they say about you if you weren't in the room? So a lot of this goes into the preparation of what we call this narrative, this story that we put out there for consumption, and we do it on LinkedIn. So as business continues its trend during the pandemic of being online and use of LinkedIn skyrocketing, views of profiles going up, it behooves us to do the farming before we do any hunting.
That's right. That's right. Now, I get a lot of emails from people that would say, "Hey, it's great to connect. You know, we have some, you know, contacts in common, so we connect." And then the first thing is, "Well, let me sell you on what I'm pushing on you." I find that really annoying, right? It's like you feel like they're okay. Is it genuine? Do they really want to connect? And then they pitch you. What's the, you know, what's a better way of doing this, right? Oh, I think I lost you, buddy. All right. So as he comes back, we're on with JD Gershbein live from Miami, and he's in Chicago. JD is a brand expert. He's been featured on NBC, on CBS News. He's been a contributor to the Huffington Post, Forbes, and we're talking about personal branding. We're talking about being on LinkedIn and how best to go about improving your own brand and launching that, especially during COVID right now. So waiting on JD here. We think we lost his connection. Hopefully he comes back in here quickly. Let's see here. All right. And so if you're watching this show, it's Gamechangerslive. He'll be back on in a minute. What we do is interview people every Tuesday, either 11 or 2 o'clock Eastern time, who have been game changers in their industries, right? So we're talking to people who have really done some amazing things in their field. All right, so JD's back with us here.
I should say that we have some bad storms in the Chicago area, and I think my internet got kicked out. Such are the vagaries of technology.
No problem.
Unforeseen circumstances.
No problem. No problem. So let's keep going here. So we were talking about you know, LinkedIn and the sales approach, right? Like, what's the best sales approach to take that doesn't seem too sleazy and salesy?
The best sales approach, Sergio, is no sales approach. There is no selling on LinkedIn. It's not designed to sell. It's designed for us to gain information on our fellow professionals, put ourselves out there, represent ourselves well on this profile, this central nucleus of the site, draw people to us. Now, I favor an attraction marketing approach. I don't think anybody wants to be thought of at this stage of the game as someone else's lead. I certainly don't. My clients don't. You don't. Yet, why is it that the more we hear about not selling and not being overt or pervasive in our sales pitch, that so many people continue to do this? And in the most egregious breach of ethics of all, on the invitation to connect.
Correct. Correct.
It's simply astounding that people are doing this with the expectation that they will sell a product or service.
Well, I love what you said there about attracting, right? Because you're selling by attracting them to you and getting them to follow you and buy into what you're saying, and then perhaps take that offline and through another mean or method help them in terms of a service or a product that you're trying to sell.
If we have engineered our profiles with client pain in mind, or the types of desired outcomes that we envision for ourselves, we'll have more effective storytelling. We will draw people into that story, and we will literally entice or evoke more of a purchase journey type of response, where people would be willing to investigate us further, learn more about what it is that we offer and how we can engage. There may not be a sell at the end of the line. It could be just an alliance, a strategic partnership. There's the analogy of the golden goose and the golden egg. So if you're in the eat what you kill world and you're just looking for sales numbers to bust quota, that's a one-time occurrence. Wouldn't you rather have the egg that lays those golden or the chicken that lays those golden eggs? The goose that lays the golden eggs.
That's right.
Whoever's laying the eggs, for God's sake. Not to be confused with me laying an egg in that explanation, of course.
Yeah. And so, to that point, then having a profile that speaks to a pain, to speaks to something that you do that, somebody else's pain that you can solve, it's really important. So it's not just your title, but what it is that you actually do for someone within your profile, right?
The best marketing comes from a place of pain. The best anything comes from a place of pain. And if you really have a handle on what it is keeps your prospective clients up at night, or your prospective employers, or anybody with whom you'd like to make a connection, how you can kind of imprint yourself in their mind and let them know what your solutions are, the more fighting chance you have. It just doesn't happen when people use predatory sales approaches and these automated spammy message generators that are now being used by the tens, if not the hundreds of thousands by people, giving digital marketing a very ugly side. It's not marketing. It doesn't work. LinkedIn is truly an organic phenomenon. It's got to be bootstrapped. And if you're going to make sales using the site, slow and steady wins the race. It's got to be done every day.
So how do you have a background of comedy, improv, improvisational comedy and storytelling. How do you infuse that into LinkedIn so that you make a more compelling story or case or get people's attention?
Well, many have drawn the parallel between performance art, acting, theater, and business, or the craft of selling, if you will, or selling yourself. And I believe that good salesmanship is showmanship. So when it comes down to any exchange, any interpersonal relationship I'm trying to develop, I'm always extending the scene as if I would if I was on stage doing improv. I just play off what comes to me. And between the two of us, my conversation partner and I'm trying to create something that hasn't been done before, or something that I didn't foresee. And sometimes it moves into a sales moment, or I'm able to generate a sales moment. Other times, no. But the key is in relationship development, you can't just connect with people, especially in the online world, and go dark. Something has to be done. One or both of you have to be proactive in moving this relationship forward. And I do it through conversational technique. I do it through phone. I do it through video conferencing, which between video conferencing and LinkedIn, these are our lifelines right now. And these are our ways of building brand. And to be able to build a refreshing, permeating, recognizable brand, you've got to be out there in the mix every day doing it. And you do that by extending conversations, extending posts, increasing the shelf life of something that you're putting out there, and bringing more people into the community and engaging with them and not letting them go when they come into your professional world.
Right. And with so many platforms out there, right, they're doing different things. So LinkedIn does one thing, Facebook does another, has different crowd, Instagram, Twitter. When you're trying to build, it can get very tedious if you're trying to put out consistent messaging in all these different platforms, because you can't just hit one button and all the platforms are covered necessarily. There's some software that does that, some that doesn't get to Instagram. But what would you recommend for folks there?
I think everything should be done as an outflow of your own nervous system and your own perceptual strength. There are different audiences on the other end of the message, and you're going to reach a different audience on LinkedIn as you would for Facebook, for Twitter, or for YouTube. Now, granted, to a certain point, everybody these days has reach on more than one platform. There are business people who probably don't venture out of the safety net of LinkedIn, but at the same time, more people who are trying to gain a voice within their online community, they're on multiple platforms, and you can intersect with them on other sites. You have to tailor the message a little bit. And I've never, Sergio, been an advocate of hiring somebody to do that. The virtual assistants on social media can put people into high jeopardy situations, high leverage situations that they may not have anticipated. I think that we should all maintain and monitor our own social media accounts, our presence on each of these sites. And to do that requires a little bit of cognitive steam. We have to be the ones on the other end, on the releasing end, because that way we can measure the engagement that ensues, and we can come back and ideally merge it with our own system, maybe take a few folks down the buyer's journey. And but if anything, again, audience building, that has to be organic and one at a time.
Yeah. And a lot of people just don't have the patience for it, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. It could take a year, it can take several years to really build a following. And then when you're trying to build a business, you don't necessarily have that much time.
Yeah, we're a shortcut society, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're always looking for a good hack or a good workaround.
That's right.
Not so in social.
Yeah, it's a long game. Now for speakers, people who are public speakers that are out there, this has decimated their industry basically, and they've had to rethink and pivot. Like you said, go online. How what advice do you have for people in the speaking industry that are trying to make their name?
They've got to meet cool cats like you, Sergio, and get on their
right.
I mean, what other choice do we have? The physical stage has been taken from us. It's been pulled out from under us. Speakers are losing revenue. You want to talk about industries that have just been zapped by Corona. I mean, it's not just the speaking industry, but all those industries around speaking, the hospitality industry, transportation and logistics, the publishing industry. I mean, yes, more people are writing books, more people are launching podcasts, but at the same time, that speaking piece, that piece where you can go and hear the vibe, feel the vibe, be in the vibe, and move in the moment of a live experience, that's been taken away. And that's a huge piece of the human connection that speakers and authors and consultants and coaches and what I call the value creation community, it may never come back to where it was. Even the so-called hybrid environment that we're about ready to go to as we tape this, maybe in fall of 2020 and in through 2021, where more people will be broadcast live, yet there'll be a few people streaming into an event or coming to see an event, masks on, maybe a vaccine in place, who knows? But I'm as interested in anyone to see what happens with the speaking trade, because it's a huge piece of my livelihood, a huge piece of your livelihood as well. And again, we are confined to the virtual world.
Right. I had a guest on last week, Dr. Bill Foreman, who is, Dr. Bill Dorfman, who is out in Beverly Hills. He's a dentist out there to the stars. But one of the things he does on the side is he has a foundation called the LEAP Foundation, and they train 15 to 25-year-olds on leadership, right? And so they normally do a week out in UCLA, and there's like 400 kids there. Well, this year they had to do it completely virtually, but they had 1,000 kids on. And so, they said, okay, well, we got something here. So next year, assuming that there's a vaccine in place, they can actually do it in person. They're going to do the hybrid. They're going to do the in-person and live stream as well, which I think could be really valuable to, a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And open it up. And so we got to start thinking differently about how we're approaching, business in general.
Yeah, it's an extension of missing the human connection experience. When you attend conferences and trade shows and symposia, and even when you go to speak to a company and in a full conference room, there's just something about it. The information is disseminated differently. They can hear you, they can see you, they can experience you in a different way than being on a little screen on a device. And I mean, it's tough to capture it. As powerful and as compelling as I like to think I am as a speaker, it loses something in translation in the visual experience. So what are we doing to circumvent this? Well, we're dressing up our offices as broadcast studios. We're investing in some high quality equipment. We're, as you have, as I have, see those ring lights? See those ring lights, baby? So, look, if you're going to have a voice, if you're going to elevate your profile, if you're going to go out there and say, I'm doing this, I'm going to rise above, take my place, elevated above the noise. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's me. Here's my message. and you go out there and you find folks like you who are running cool podcasts and do some video work, maybe parse out your value in micro learning segments, maybe have some focused Zoom conversations with people and put those out there. There's a lot of that now. Some of it great, others unwatchable. But the point is, you're doing it. I always applaud the effort because I know people are trying. But once that webcam light goes on,
yeah,
and the microphone is hot, boy, some people make it look so easy and others are challenged by it. And the key is to just keep practicing, get better and better and better every time you tell your story to those you wish to serve.
Taking action is probably the biggest thing you can do to get over a fear. And one of the, when I a couple months ago, I did a Game Changers challenge where I made a live video post once a day for 56 days. And at first it was
a 56-day challenge, just like Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, that's right. It was intimidating because you have to think, okay, well, what am I going to say today? And you can't go back and say, oh, well, let me refilm that. Let me take that video again, because you're live, right? And so that gets you also past, hey, you're gonna screw up. You're gonna say something that, you're gonna be your biggest critic, right? Because as you're talking, you're already criticizing yourself. Oh, well, that came off wrong. That sounded stupid. And you got to get over that, right? Because more than anything, I think today is authenticity is really important. It's valued. People just want to see that they can relate to you, right? That you're not perfect, that you do make mistakes. But the best thing to do is to take action when you're fearful, especially of being on camera.
I call it fearless authenticity. And to a certain point, we can't just go out there with a devil may care attitude. We really do have to bring our A game. We have to polish ourselves. And it does mean rehearsing. It does mean being very conscious about how you want to communicate your message. In fact, crafting the message itself. But at the same time, media training is a huge area of professional development, and there are many around helping others get better virtually. And it can be done. It's truly a coachable skill. I've kind of accidentally stumbled into a few of those engagements myself, and I've done events around virtual events. So the key is the mindset. As you well know, mindset drives everything.
Yeah.
And you have to self-convince that this is where we're at. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. As we tape this in the northern climates and in any cold climate that's not celebrating summer right now, cold weather is going to hit. More nesting, more sheltering at home. Heck, we may be in another lockdown or two before it's all over. So again, technology has to pace with the demands now of an internet society, of the virtualization of business, and we have to take it upon ourselves, if we're going to be a voice out there, to have the best, most powerful, most compelling voice we can muster.
JD, great advice, buddy. Thank you for being on. Excellent advice, especially and insight going forward. If you're a business owner, if you're a speaker, whatever you are, personal branding is incredibly important going forward. How could they reach out to you or where can we find you?
Well, it shouldn't surprise anybody by now that I do have a LinkedIn account. And I'm searchable under my name on LinkedIn, which is J.D., no periods, Gershbein, Gershbein. I'm pretty much out there. You plug me into any search engine out there, it'll spit out my pertinent sites. But the way that I'm working with folks nowadays is truly on a much more immersive and sophisticated level, because to a certain point, Sergio, I think the honeymoon is over on social media. We're almost 2 decades full into all of this since the social media revolution took hold. And what have we learned as a society, as a species, about the way we communicate on these platforms? Well, for business, it goes through LinkedIn. Whether you do the other sites or not, whether you're contemplating video or not, whether you're going to launch a podcast or not, if you've got a product or service to sell, if you're looking to sell books, build an audience, or basically sell software programs, it goes through LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn profile has now become the reference point on you, the primary reference point on you in the business universe. And that's where I help people, is to build that infrastructure.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thanks for being on Game Changers. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Be well, folks.
Take care, buddy.